Michael here. This episode of Arcanecarolinas is brought to you by Squat Shots. Squat Shots are sold everywhere. Squat Shots are a product of
BDDY Holdings Incorporated,
a diagonally integrated company with several major subsidiaries.
You are listening to Arcane Carolinas, an exploration of the Carolinas' folklore, legends, myths, and modern weird. Each episode, we examine the historical context of our topic and aim to preserve some of the stories that help make this part of the world such a fascinating place.
All right, hello everyone and welcome. My name is Elle. I work at South Regional Library as an Adult Services Library Associate. First of all, I want to say apologies for the delay. Thank you everyone for coming, and I am so excited to introduce Arcane Carolinas. They are here to talk to you about
virtual
Carolina cryptids. So would y'all like to go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Absolutely. Charlie, I don't know how to start an episode without you starting the episode.
Hi, I'm your co-host, Charlie Mushaw.
And I am your other co-host, multi-award-winning novelist, Michael G. Williams. And I feel like I'm really loud.
No, you're fine. Say hi to the people online.
Hey, people online.
Thanks for being here. By a show of hands, who is familiar with Arcane Carolinas? All right. I get to explain it. Okay.
You do.
I'm excited. Arcane Carolinas started as a podcast exploring the folklore, verifiable history, stories of the weird, and how they all intersect with modern science and verifiable history to confirm as much as possible what parts of our weird history are real. So ghosts and cryptids and strange occurrences from some town that people swear happened. That's how we started. We started as a podcast and just digging into these stories from a place of really enjoying them and feeling that they bring communities together. And that led to books, and that has since led to us doing these live recordings. We're recording an episode tonight. That's what we're doing for audiences. And Michael, what did I miss?
I started giggling because the way that it really started was you saw a sign on the side of the road that revealed that some person was trying to start the Pittsburgh Fight Club.
Yes.
And we were like, that is such a Backroads, North Carolina thing. There is so many weird stories here.
Yep.
That we have to do something.
Yes, but the goal was to create a podcast that explores the intersection of verifiable history, modern science, and weird tales out of the Carolinas.
Yes, it is.
I like to say it's a spooky, it's a history lesson with a spooky wrapper around it. Sometimes people will be like, are you paranormal investigators? We are not.
Oh, Lord.
We will go to a place if it's publicly available or someone is gracious enough to open it up to us and it's tied to a story in history and is allegedly haunted. We'll check it out, but we are not paranormal investigators. We are friends with paranormal investigators, but mostly what we do is we collect history.
I worked in a haunted library in college, and I quit that job and will never go back there again, and do not ever want to voluntarily go into a place that somebody assures me is haunted, ever. I became a horror novelist in response to my encounter with the paranormal. So,
but yeah, we're everything that's been published in our feed, plus stuff that we have already recorded that will be coming out, and the stuff on our Patreon. We've got over 150 hours into this stuff. So if you want to talk about any kind of North Carolina or South Carolina or even national legend, lore, piece of folklore, paranormal experience, ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, we're here for it. Tonight, the way the format works is one of us leads. They drive the episode and the other person just reacts. You're getting a Michael episode tonight. He's driving.
One of us picks a topic and does all the research, and the other tries as hard as possible to come in knowing nothing, which is very easy for me on most topics. And so this time the roles are reversed.
Yeah. So I'm going to sit back and do nothing.
All right.
Except cut you off at inopportune times.
I am going to admire my slides. I'm going to occasionally need to read them because they are my notes. But the title of this episode is Carolina Cryptids, From Mermaids to Monsters.
All right.
Are you aware, Charlie, that there is a legend of mermaids in the Piedmont?
I am.
Are you?
I am.
Okay. Damn.
I have theories, so I'm really looking. I'm really looking forward to your explanation.
I made a horrifying graphic for it where I took our logo, which is a ram head Ouroboros named King Carolina, and put him on a mermaid body.
That is horrifying. You should show people.
And I'm really proud of it because it's really bad. And I'm really pleased with my Queen Carolina.
So since there are so many folks here that have Arcanecarolinas is new to them, I feel like we should explain the logo because people always wonder.
We recently, let's explain the logo and then we'll talk about that.
Okay, so Michael and I met working at UNC Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
And they have the mascot of the ram and everything. And we needed a logo for the podcast. And I had like the standard Ouroboros with the snake eating its tail to be like, I don't know, folklore is timeless. Mm-hmm. And I was like, let me get really weird with it and just stick the ram head on there then to give it a little local flavor. And then Michael was like, yeah, and we should put the alchemical symbol for air in the middle because podcasts and radio waves. And I'm like, yeah. And then people were like, this is satanic. And we're like, no, it's not.
Just this weekend, we got to hide a bunch of comments on Facebook from somebody who's convinced it's satanic.
So I assure you, we are not up here trying to do evil deeds with regards to Carolina folklore, at least.
If I were able to conjure evil deeds, we would live in a different world.
Yeah. So that's the logo. That's what it means. Thanks for being here. Thanks for not walking out when you saw it. Can you tell it's fresh? It stings to be catching all these comments as recently as this weekend. It's like, ugh, gross. No, delete.
Just another moment of continuity in my life. I've been called satanic for a very long time. So we have a bunch of free swag over there, stickers and koozies and things like that have our logo on it. If you would like to take a potentially, maybe satanic, probably not logo home with you. I'm going to warn you, if you take a koozie, they are like gremlins. You will eventually open a drawer and 700 koozies will pour out. I have given away all the koozies I have repeatedly. And every time I pull the swag box out of the closet, there are 30 more koozies in it.
Cursed foam.
So maybe the logo is satanic, but if so, it's just generating koozies, and I missed. So let's talk about the mermaids of the Cape Fear River.
Let's do it.
But first, we're going to start with some history.
Yep.
And this is going to be for people who have listened to a lot of the show, the return of an old friend who is British Revolutionary War major, colonel, whatever he was. He had several different positions. Bannister Tarleton.
Head foppish military man.
You probably won't be able to see, but I love this portrait of Bannister Tarleton. He is the world's biggest British fop of the 18th century.
He really owns the name Bannister Tarleton.
He really does. You don't get more Bannister Tarleton than that hat. In fact, they named it the Tarleton after him. And
he
required all the soldiers in the company that he led to wear it.
No.
Yes. It's a tarleton hat.
Every time you bring this guy up in a different episode, I learn something new, and he just gets more and more. It's exponentially more Bannister Tarleton each time. At first it was haha, that's an old-timey name. And then it was oh, he had this painting made of him. Well, that's something. Also, he invented a hat and made all of his people wear it.
So there's a lot of really interesting history about Bannister Tarleton, and everybody here who was ever in third grade in the United States knows of him. You just don't realize it. He was the British officer leading the charge at the "don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes" moment in the Revolutionary War. The Patriots did a fake retreat. They faked him out. They convinced him that they were in really bad shape, and they retreated up a long hill. And there were a bunch of guys with guns on either side of this like long track up a hill. And Bannister Tarleton took the bait and charged in. And then at the top, everybody got told, don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes. And they got pretty close, and people started firing, and Bannister Tarleton lost that battle. He went on to very vengefully win some battles after that. He was not a nice person. He, after the Revolutionary War, went back to the UK, got elected to Parliament, and spent 20 years as the UK's fiercest opponent to abolition. Not a good person.
Not something you want to hang your big silly hat on.
Yeah. I've also found what's my new favorite portrait of him, which is this one, which I feel like he probably commissioned to use in a dating profile. I don't know. It's very surprisingly suggestive.
Yeah, he's really
painting from the 18th century.
Letting it all hang out there, Bannister.
Yeah, he's really showing off his assets. So, had it been projected, there would be a little text under him that says, "Get a load of that guy," because he was really something. So, have you heard of Ramsay's Tavern?
I have not.
Okay. So outside of the town of Pittsburgh, there is today a community called Moncure.
Yes, I am familiar with Moncure.
And where Moncure is, used to be a town called Lockville.
What did they do in Lockville?
They mostly thought that they were going to be like a really important trading post because Lockville was where the Deep River and the Haw River meet to begin forming the Cape Fear River.
Which there's actually a really unique biosphere there.
Really?
Yeah. There's a type of pine tree that grows along the Deep River there where the rivers converge and the temperatures are cooler. And, and like you shouldn't find that specific type of pine in this region. It generally grows further up north in New England.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
this is why only one of us does the planning and the other one reacts, because we always come up with something like that.
There's always something weird that like one of us doesn't know. Ramsay's Tavern was a business in then Lockville, now Moncure. It's named something different because in the middle of the 19th century, a company bought the town of Lockville and told everybody, we just need all this land for the industrial stuff that we're going to be doing.
Right.
You can keep living in your house if you want to, but like when you're gone, that's ours. And eventually there wasn't a town anymore. There was just a big industrial site. And then eventually the industrial site went under and it became a community called Moncure.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's a much nicer way of doing it. You can hang out until...
I mean, it's going to be a long, hard walk for me to decide that a massive industrial enterprise is a good guy.
But they didn't kick anybody out.
That's true. They didn't. Okay.
I'd like to know what that company was.
I did know when I made these notes, and now I don't.
Okay.
All right. So Ramsay's Tavern was started by this guy named Ambrose Ramsay. He built it in the 1760s, maybe the early 1770s. And he also built a mill because that location, which is about 2.5 miles upstream, up the Deep River from that confluence, is a place where there are a bunch of rapids and there's some rapid elevation change. And so he was able to dig a little canal and build a mill, and it was a really really good site for industrial efforts. Did your microphone die?
It's fine. I'll project.
Okay.
No, it's fine. Can they still hear me? Hey, people of the internet, can you still hear me? Oh, the people of the internet have spoken.
Charlie, you can holler loud enough so the internet can hear you.
This is like the first time ever.
Yeah.
Usually I just get ignored in the comments on Reddit. Just like, I don't like that. Downvote. Yeah.
They say it sounds better than the microphone.
Yeah, I do.
Right. So Ramsay built this tavern, and he also built a mill. And this tavern was a very central location. It was on what is now the Pittsburgh-Moncure Road, which is a road that still exists.
Yes, I'm very remote. Yes.
And it was on a ridge above the Deep River. So during the Revolutionary War, just a few short years after this inn was built, was the Battle of Guilford College. There was the whole, to really compress the Revolutionary War, there was the whole thing where Cornwallis was chasing Greene through South Carolina, and then Greene led Cornwallis up into North Carolina, and they had the Battle of Guilford Courthouse, and then afterwards, Cornwallis marched to Wilmington. On the way from Greensboro to Wilmington, they marched through Pittsburgh, down that road, and Bannister Tarleton,
The Bannister
Tarleton took over Ramsay's Tavern and Ramsay's Mill as a base for his soldiers to recover. They felt like that was probably far enough ahead of the Patriot forces that they could stop there and rest and heal and eat and prepare some food and all that good stuff. They had a ton of casualties. They had a lot of people who were very badly injured, and they had almost no provisions. And so they
started eating mermaids.
So
I'm just wondering. I mean,
they
said there was mermaids.
The British had no idea how close Greene's forces actually were. And so Bannister Tarleton saw scouts from the Patriots approaching, and there were like some pot shots exchanged. And then Bannister Tarleton said, "We're not going to go after those guys. I'm not falling for that twice." And it was just like, no, we're not going to chase them. We're not going to find out how many there are. We're just going to assume there are none.
Right.
What they did not know was that like the bulk of the Patriot army in North Carolina was 8 miles away and marching towards them. And so they were pretty much instantly chased out of Ramsay's Tavern and Ramsay's Mill. The Patriot forces were so desperate that they ate the garbage that the British left behind.
Ew.
That's how desperate the conditions were. This is like not quite spring, but it's still very cold. Food stores are long gone. The winter has eaten everybody's food up, and they're very desperate. The British also left behind a bunch of dead without burying them. And so the Patriots buried all of their dead for them and like had services for them, and then ate the garbage that they left behind because that was what they had. Which I just find really interesting because war is terrible. War is super grisly. And we get like this weird nostalgia tinged version of things. And I think that obscures some of the real heroism. So anyway. One of my notes was to refer to Bannister Tarleton as Old Handrail, which I think is just a really funny nickname. But they took care of the people that had been left behind and buried them. And at the same time, soldiers in the Revolutionary War on both sides, specifically at Ramsay's Tavern, started reporting that they had seen mermaids at the confluence of the Deep and Haw rivers. At the time, there was a sandbar there where those rivers meet, this long, narrow sandbar. It was not really accessible other than a very difficult route that was not a path. You had to like push through brambles for, miles to get to it. And so it was a very isolated spot, but there were roads on either side of the outer sides of the rivers, and then on either side of the Cape Fear River extending down to the southeast. And the Revolutionary War soldiers at Ramsay's Tavern started reporting that if they walked those roads or rode those roads at night, especially on a full moon, they would see mermaids sitting on that sandbar washing their hair. And their theory in this legend, as they told it to each other, was that those mermaids had swum up the river from Wilmington and were using the fresh water of the river to wash the salt out of their hair from the beach.
So I knew that there was something to do with Cape Fear River and mermaids.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize how close it was to where I live.
Yeah.
And I didn't know the time frame. I never really looked into it because we did the Siren of the French Broad River. We talked a lot about like mermaid lore and siren lore. Mm-hmm. But I never touched this. This is interesting.
They said to each other and to Ramsay was one of the people who recorded people telling this to him.
Sure.
That if they waved or called out or in any way acknowledged that they had seen the mermaids, that the mermaids would all dive into the river and swim away. and vanish. There was no ability to interact with them. And so it became a thing where these soldiers would encourage each other to ride quietly past this spot, see if they saw mermaids. If so, respectfully observe that they're there, and then move on.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
A very, very personal question.
Sure.
In the taxonomy of the weird,
Yeah.
where do you place a mermaid? Is it like a mythological type creature, a straight up cryptozoological thing, like just an animal we haven't found yet? Or is it more of a beyond?
So zoology says to me animal, but mermaids are, in my head, people.
Yeah, see, I'm thinking, and again, this is the old joke, which half is mermaid, right? Top and bottom.
That does matter.
I want to know what they
matters
were
a lot.
saying. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you know.
If they have faces and can talk, then they're people.
Interesting.
So I see it as mythological creatures.
Yeah. No, I'm in the same boat. I had
Depending. It could also be horror creatures. They could be monsters. I've seen Cabin in the Woods.
so I like the thought of, you know, the manatee explanation, the old like, oh, what sailors saw were manatees, and that's what mermaids were, and they were just mistaken, and with the way the light refracted through the water, and blah 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 blah. Mm-hmm. I like the idea that I'm with you. Like the, you know, half human, half fish for me is like mythological creature. But if you look at this from a cryptozoological perspective, perhaps there was some, it's a big maybe, but come with me on this.
Okay.
But maybe, just maybe there's some sort of aquatic mammal, right?
Okay, sure.
That just has since gone extinct and maybe looked a little bit different. And that's what people saw. But no, I'm not in on mermaid. I'm not in on the whole like top half human, bottom half fish. I'm in on like, maybe there's some sort of aquatic mammal that like had more like appendages than flippers.
Okay. In the X-Filesification of our show, I am definitely the Mulder. I want to believe. And I cannot believe that.
Okay. I said it's a big maybe. I'm just trying to give you something here. What I'm trying not to do is I did an interview a couple of months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And somebody like they did like Q&A and they were like, what do you, they were just going down the list of what do you believe in? Which feels like a really personal thing to drill down on somebody with. But they're like, do you believe in Bigfoot? I'm like, I believe in the possibility of Bigfoot. They're like, do you believe in aliens? I'm like, I think it would be ignorant to believe that we are the only living things in the entire universe. They're like, do you believe in mermaids? I'm like, we have gone a step too far and I am done with these questions. No, I do not believe in mermaids.
I feel like this is a scene out of my childhood with like a really weird and much cooler version of the Apostles' Creed, where everybody, do you believe in the possibility of big fate? I believe in the possibility of Bigfoot. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was just, dude, I got pushed into a corner and had to be like, no, I don't think that mermaids are a thing. But then, to his credit, the guy that was conducting the interview, not asking the question, but the host was like, well, why not, man? And I was like, but what? And he was like, just why not? And that's when I was like,
Yeah.
all right, if I had to explain this, I could possibly see there being some sort of aquatic mammal, not a half fish person hybrid, some sort of aquatic mammal that they didn't get a good look at the head and it had some kind of arm or appendage more than just a flipper. Maybe, but I don't believe in mermaids.
Okay, see,
So that's why I wanted to ask you and make you go through that suffering.
oh, buckle up. So I am willing to get real weird with my answer.
Okay.
And say that I would take the mythological mermaids as real way before I would believe in anything cryptozoological for it. Really. Because one of my gold standards, we've talked about this many times on mic and off, is a particular phenomenon represented across cultures that do not have contact with one another.
Sure.
And mermaids are one that does. So it's not that difficult for me, in my very weird brain. I'm going to just acknowledge this. This is not me expressing dogma. Nobody should believe anything that I believe because what goes on in my brain is probably best contained in there. But
We've been doing this long enough. I know a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not wrong.
And I like you.
They can think I'm crazy all day. I don't care.
Right.
But I would be willing to entertain the possibility that one of two things happens. One, that there is some sort of like weird ancestral memory, genetic memory of the evolution of life emerging from the ocean that causes different people to imagine a hybrid of what lives in the water and what lives on land. And that imagined thing is imagined so widely and so fiercely. And the liminal space of the boundary between land and sea being so important to the development of civilization in so many places, and the development of human life as we know it now, as a food source, a transportation source, a source of raw materials, all kinds of stuff, that eventually enough people believe that it happens. Because I think reality is malleable.
Yeah, I mean, there's a term for that. Was it tulpa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do I think that it's possible that mermaids are thought forms conjured at a cultural level? Yes.
And that's the difference between Michael and I.
I said I want to believe.
Yeah. So does this story, you're probably getting to this, does this story persist beyond the Revolutionary War?
Until they started building locks and dams on the Cape Fear River. And then people stopped reporting seeing the mermaids.
Really?
Yes.
Damn it, Michael.
After locks were built along the river, because there's a big elevation shift from Wilmington to Pittsburgh. There's like 400 feet of elevation.
That makes a lot of sense.
And people started building locks, and they started building dams, and they started harvesting the
It's like you knew where I was going to go with this.
It's almost. I have a degree in performance studies, but Charlie has a degree in science, and I know how to prepare for that. But yeah, after they started building dams on the Cape Fear River, people stopped seeing mermaids at Mermaid Point, which persists today. You can look up Mermaid Point on Google Maps, and it points at the right spot.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Ramsey's Tavern actually stood long enough that we have photographs of it. And it was torn down in the 1950s. It got flooded and was like really dangerous.
Like wiped out.
Yeah. You know, the water level rose and changed as the locks and dams got built.
Sure.
Eventually, where they said that the mermaids were probably got put underwater, but they're mermaids. What do they care?
Well, how do they dry their hair?
The wind.
The wind. Right, but not if they can't sit on the sandbar.
They'd swim at the surface really fast.
Yeah.
Just like. I actually had a slide titled, "But Were They Real?" And yeah, that's what I say. No real way to know, but the Mermaid Point name persists. You can on Google find people who have reviewed it. They did not favorably review it because it's really difficult to get to. And people were like, it's not worth it. This is not a fun hike.
Yeah, I mean.
So that's the Mermaids of Cape Fear River.
Thank you, Michael. That was excellent. I'm glad that you did that one, not me, because I would have been like, there's nothing here. I'm not doing it.
I did pick these two topics thinking that there would be just no meat on the bone whatsoever. And then in the middle of making my notes was like, oh, this is really 2 episodes, but life is just going to go on.
Any excuse to bring up Bannister Tarleton.
Any excuse to bring up Bannister Tarleton, my favorite villain of the Revolutionary War. So, would you like to hear about the monster? In
Yes.
the other half of this episode.
I would like to hear about the monster.
That is going to be...
People of the internet, do you want to hear about the monster? It's happening.
They don't get a vote.
All right, they're in.
That is going to be the Santer. And that is an early drawing of what people described the Santer as looking like.
Can I see it?
Yes.
It's a dog it's the target dog. Look, it's the target dog. Look at his eye. It's like evil version of the target dog.
I think that is contained in the phrase target dog. So, are you familiar with the story of the Santer?
People have brought it up. I have never looked into it. It's somewhere on the list. So
We've had so many people say, you've got to talk about the Santer, you've got to talk about the Santer. And it's one of those things where, like watching Game of Thrones, I had it recommended so many times that eventually I was just like, no.
yeah, we're both really bad about that. So we have this long running list. It's in cloud storage, and we add to it when people give us ideas. And it's an amazing list, but it definitely does have a thing where, like the Battleship North Carolina, so many people have said, you got to do the Battleship North Carolina and talk about how it's haunted. And I'm like, oh, yeah. I went there as a kid. I've taken my kids there. Yeah, we'll get to it. And then when the next person's like, you got to do the Battleship North Carolina, I'm like, just move down the list. Well, you got to do the Battleship. You know what? Now it's at the bottom of the list.
But a lot of it is like really well covered territory.
Right. I'm like, I'm going to get to it. Stop bugging me.
Like actual paranormal investigators go to the Battlestar. To the
Battlestar, North Carolina. Sign me up.
Right.
Let's go.
I am ready for that. I'll become a paranormal investigator. Plenty of people who actually know what they're talking about have gone and done that.
Yeah.
But then nobody needs me to go walk around on the Battleship North Carolina.
We're doing it. I have the notes ready now. I finally did it, but now it's just like sitting on a shelf. Like, I'll do that episode when I won't. It's currently penciled in for the fall.
So I had never heard anything about the Santer until I had literally never heard of it until people were like, you should do the Santer. So I thought, well, there's probably not much to it, because
Mr. Claus?
I know this stuff, right?
That sounds Santa Claus. Santa Claus. They're not all hits, people.
Can't all be bangers. I was very surprised by how much there is about the Santer and what an interesting story it is.
Hit me.
The first mention of the Santer that I or a much better expert at this were able to find was from August 28th, 1890.
That's pretty new for folklore stuff.
And it was an appearance in the Statesville Landmark, which was a weekly newspaper at the time. These days, it's still the Statesville newspaper. The Statesville Record and Landmark is the local paper in Statesville.
Good for them.
Yeah. I checked to see, and there it is, the weather in Statesville today and all that good stuff. That was the first mention of the Santer, and it's in a very brief little piece that's like one paragraph long, and it gives basically no details, and it just says, livestock in the area is under attack again from the Santer. I know that look, and we're going to get there. Mm-hmm. We're going to get there. Mm-hmm. Then a week later, that was on August 28th, 1890. A week later, in the September 4th issue, they had more details and a drawing. Which is not the drawing I just showed. It is instead this drawing.
Which appears to be straight out of the Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual, circa 1970, whatever.
It's a very interpretive representation. Let's call it that. I think it looks really neat.
It does look neat.
And
looks like a displacer with the tail.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And the tail, it's interesting. The tail is really distinctive in that. And then the tail gets explored later as the story builds. So early newspaper reports emphasize that the Santer attacked other animals.
Okay.
Mostly cats, dogs, sheep, pigs, etc. But also emphasized that the Santer would attack children. I won't go into details because there is a child 10 feet from me.
He's mine. It's okay.
Oh, okay. Then there was a frequent emphasis in reports at the time that it, though specifically preferred cats and dogs, they were in the biggest danger from it. One of my favorite quotes is from a different newspaper at the time, the Carolina Watchman, which was the Salisbury newspaper. It went under in the 30s. It's not still around. And it described it as, even its likeness is dreadful to behold. The brute is described as having abnormal capacity for food. And I'm like, big same.
Yeah, I can appreciate this.
And has a weakness for pigs, cow, sheep, and children.
Huh.
I love the little aw. And I was like, oh, that's my favorite thing about it. Also from the Carolina Watchman, they said of the name, this strange animal is called locally by several names, none of which, perhaps excepting Santer, conveys much meaning to the earnest reader. Santer has a mysterious, meandering, indefinite significance, which is quite appalling. I'm not even sure how to parse that.
I don't even know. Can I read that? Can I look at your notes?
I write horror novels.
Santa has a mysterious meander and indefinite significance, which is quite appalling.
It kind of sounds like Blanche Devereaux is describing the Santer.
I say, Foghorn Leghorn should narrate this.
Yeah, right? I was just like, okay. But then I read a little more about why they had said that of it. In the year 2000, a staffer for the Statesville Landmark, was interviewed by a writer for the North American Biofortean Review.
Ooh.
Who in here is familiar with the works of Charles Fort? He was a fascinating person whose whole attitude to researching the strange was he was not going to assign truth value to anything. He was just going to report what people said they saw. Just take it all at face value. Don't necessarily declare that it's the truth, but record it and report it as reported to him. And so Fortean researchers tend to just sort of like take things at face value and not try to make value judgments about them. Really interesting field of research. Charles Fort wrote some amazingly cool and weird books. Highly recommended. And the North American Biofortean Review ran cryptozoological and cryptobotanical articles for like 15 years. In 2000, they talked to a staffer for the Statesville Landmark about these stories from the 1890s. And that staffer said that it was obviously a brainchild of the editor of the newspaper who had made it up.
I'm not buying that.
But the same article in North American Biofortean Review points out that these reports appeared in other newspapers that were not just reprinting reports from the Statesville Landmark, but were reporting fresh reports from other places around Statesville throughout the 1890s and into the 1900s, and then the 1910s, and then the 1920s, and then the 1930s. The last reported sighting in a newspaper in the Piedmont region was in the 1970s.
Yeah, I mean, I'll bite my tongue for now. Go on.
And the North American Biofortean Review points out that in a survey of all these articles and the newspapers at the time, one of the things they noticed was that it's not that the newspapers reported the Santer and never anything else, like a bear or a cougar or anything like that.
Sure.
These reports appeared alongside reports of distinct identified wildlife. Because the newspaper wasn't unwilling to print that a cougar had attacked something or a mountain lion or anything like that. They were reporting these things alongside one another as two distinct things that happened at the same time.
I love this.
I felt like this has got like your big cryptozoological thing, like
I mean,
right
look
up
at
your
that,
alley.
look at that thing.
Yeah.
It's the same picture from before. Sorry.
But there are several.
Very rude of me. I apologize.
There are several illustrations. This is actually the original image from that newspaper article. Then there's this fun little pig-faced dog, which is really interesting. That one's from the 30s. And then there's this, which is from a book called Fearsome Critters, published in 1939. And it's not actually an illustration of the Santer. It's an illustration of the Santer's tail. That part that's in this red circle.
Yeah, it's all knotted up.
Yeah. That becomes a part of the folklore of the Santer, that it is described as having several knots or welts in its tail, up to 8 of them, and it uses those to flail its victims to death.
That feels like embroidery.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. Do go on.
One of the descriptions includes his body is long, covered with reddish long hair, tail almost as long as his body, and has 8 hard knots in it. But there are a lot of conflicting descriptions of the Santer that are printed over time. Tail as long as his body, brown with black stripes, gold with no stripes, red with long hair and stripes, orange with black stripes. And I'm like, maybe a tiger got loose in the Piedmont. I don't know. The old circus train breaks down story. But while doing this, I immediately thought, doesn't this sound a lot like the Beast of Bladenborough?
Among other things.
Yeah. And that is a theory that comes up a lot. A lot of people want to posit the Beast of Bladenborough, if you're not familiar with it, in the 1950s, described variously as a vampire cat or just a big cat attacked a bunch of animals in a little town way far away from Statesville in southeast North Carolina called Bladenborough. To this day, they have the Bladenborough Beast Fest every year. Super fun. But it sounds a lot like the Beast of Bladenborough.
It does.
There are people who try to put together theories today that it was just the Beast of Bladenborough kind of on walkabout. And then there are people who
Getting too
say,
hot around here. I got to go for a stroll.
And then there are people who say, perhaps more groundedly, this is proof that there's a population of big cats that persists in North Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, there are absolutely big cats in North Carolina.
Yeah.
I will die on that hill, based on reported sightings. But go on.
No, I mean, like as a kid, I would hear mountain lion screams and was told, like, when you hear that, don't go wander around in the woods back there. And at the same time, we were being told the mountain lions were extinct.
Right.
I think it's also, though, interesting to view this as a potential cautionary tale being run in the newspaper.
Sure.
Because almost all the people who were claimed to have had interactions with the Santer were people who were out late, out drinking, people who answered their door after dark, stuff like that. Kids who were out after curfew, stuff like that.
Who answered their door? He uses a big tail. Yes. Ha ha! Gotcha.
I feel like there's a really strong element of like social messaging being woven into this, which is one of the really interesting uses of folklore.
But sure, I have so much to say.
Say it.
I'm trying to be so polite.
No, stop being polite. Say it.
So like that, none of that precludes it from actually have existing.
Yes.
Not as like a singular freakish beast with a knotted tail, right? But like something was eating the livestock.
Yeah.
Right? We know that there's big cats, right? We also know that we have migratory canines in the region. And it's been verifiably demonstrated in different parts of the country that once a population of, say, wolf, coyote, whatever, pick your wild dog, when a population dwindles enough, a larger population will absorb that smaller population and create hybrid canines. So maybe there was some weird looking dog with like long reddish hair, and maybe that was what ate some of the livestock, right? But that doesn't preclude a wildcat with a long tail from eating another one, having seen it like, oh God, I saw it. It was the Santer. I seen it. It looked at me with its tail and it was flying through the air. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
it looked at you with its tail?
I'm like, what? Sure, whatever. But the point is Yeah, they're
extra
eyes.
Yeah.
But like that doesn't preclude the canines from having eaten the livestock somewhere else and then seeing something else. They're like, that was freakish and unexpected, and I attribute the deaths to that.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? There's multiple possibilities that can be going into this. It doesn't have to be a singular mythological animal.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah. Is it real?
I don't know.
I want to believe, I kind of do. There's a lot that I love about the story. Even if I don't believe that it's necessarily a specific creature called the Santer, and maybe it's more like a family of animal attacks, then I still think it's a neat artifact.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating. There were reports as late as the 70s.
I think something was eating things.
Yeah, totally. And unlike the Beast of Bladenborough, which did just like drain creatures of their blood, the Santer like ate the things that it attacked.
Right.
Which is freaky. And people
I'm in on the Santer. I'm in.
Okay.
I'm in
on the Santer.
I'm in.
But those reports,
I would go run around in the woods with you to find the Santer.
Okay, well, we're not going to go looking for the Santer because I do not want to get eaten.
I'm going to go run around in the woods and look for the Santer.
Check in. Make sure that you're good.
Okay.
But that's the story of the Santer.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That's all, folks.
Do you think the Santer could be related to the Carolina Panther?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it would not shock me at all if at least some of those Santer reports were a Carolina Panther. There's too much evidence that the Panthers persist. Or at least that they persisted way past the point that we were told they didn't. Growing up in the mountains, I used to see, gigantic cat footprints back in the middle of nowhere. We would go into places that now are like reserved state parks, things like that, where they're just, at the time, for different reasons, there just weren't very many people who were allowed to go back there. But I was one of the people who was allowed to go into what is now DuPont State Forest. And we would see gigantic cat footprints to the point of, if they were really fresh, like we saw one We were trying to walk someplace back in the woods. We realized we'd forgotten something. We turned around to go back to the truck. We, walked across a part of the path that we had been on like 2 minutes before. Now there were footprints that had not been there 2 minutes before that. And we were like, we're out of here. Like, gone. Like, done. Not messing around. So we knew that there was stuff back there all the time.
I know they used to have all that territory.
Yeah, I mean, like, just the DuPont State Forest is like 40,000 acres of untouched woods. Who knows what all could be back there? It would not be difficult for one or 5 animals to hide.
We have some words from the internet.
Yes, I've got 2 questions from the internet. First one, what is your favorite North Carolina ghost story that you believe is real?
Oh, gosh.
Ooh, that's a good one. When we talk about ghosts, right, or spirits or whatever you want to describe that phenomena as, to your point, people across cultures, across time have reported seeing what they believe is, the remnants or a replay, depending on your perspective, of a person that definitely existed, right? So it's tied to a person. So my going theory is that ghosts are something of like a physics problem that hasn't been solved yet, and that maybe it's more of like a residual energy at some level that we can't currently detect, or in a way that we can't currently detect. I don't believe in ghosts as like the disembodied souls of the departed. So for me, to take it back, this is called a callback. The Battleship North Carolina is a really compelling spot for ghost stories because there was a lot of trauma on that ship. That ship, survived an attack. It sustained damage. People died. There was also an infirmary on board, right? Like, people experienced trauma on that boat. For me, believing that what we perceive as ghosts is some sort of residual energy playback. A lot of people, is anybody familiar with the stone tape theory? A couple hands? Okay. It's basically that like, I'm here, you're here. At the very, 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 very basis level, we're like, atoms bonking into each other and stuff. And at the quantum level, there's some sort of energy going on. And that if we have a large enough reaction, not if I'm like, that's not going to scare you enough to like imprint on this piece of space and time. But that if somebody sustains something, either soaring highs or crashing lows, but something that is psychically powerful enough to, at the basest level of existence, cause things to jiggle around and make an imprint on that place in space and time, it can be replayed like a tape. The same way we write to a magnetic tape with electrical signal. Anyway, that's it. Battleship North Carolina. That was a really long way to get to that. I just didn't want to. One, thank you for being here, people of the internet. But 2, I just didn't want to be like, all ghosts are real. Like, I didn't want to do that.
My take is I do believe in ghosts as the persisting soul of a person. I also believe in that they are sometimes stone tape theory replays. And but the one my favorite that I believe is real is the Pink Lady of the Grove Park Inn, because I think that there are too many consistent reports across too many years from people who did not try to get rich saying that they saw something. Also, mostly those come from children, and why would those children have heard the story already when they get there? The average 7-year-old probably does not know what the Pink Lady of Grove Park Inn is.
Yeah.
One of the consistent things is that she very benevolently interacts with children.
Number 2, what about the Boojum? Do you think they're real? Did I get that wrong?
No. Yes. The Boojum. We recorded a whole episode on the Boojum. People of the internet, I do not believe that the Boojum is real.
The Boojum is about as real as the evil target dog.
And spoiler alert
For the same reason.
Yeah. But spoiler alert for that episode, we were actually able to go back and trace essentially the hotel that used it as a marketing technique and that birthed the story and would send people out on expeditions into the woods and be like, Y'all want some real local flavor here visiting the mountains? Come on, we'll take you on a boojum hunt.
Yeah, imagine if we said, you know, y'all, we're really into UFOs and we know where Alf is. And if you stay at our hotel, we can tell you where to go hiking to find Alf. And that's exactly what happened. But it's a great story.
But it's a great story, and they have a festival, and there's a beer named after it, or I think there's a whole brewing company named after it.
Boojum Brewing.
There's, songs, and it's fun.
It's super fun.
That's it for me.
Cool, thanks. You can read mean ones if there's a mean one.
No other questions?
What about, you said you think ghosts are replays or echoes of past lives?
Yeah.
Past living. What about smart responses, like a whistle?
Right? So this is where it gets weird. And
Yeah.
it's like, for those of you that have never heard me say this before, I say this a lot. I don't have the answer. And anybody that tells you that they do is probably trying to sell you a gadget or something.
Yep.
Like it's part of the unknown, right? Like I have my theory on what they are, but it can't explain that stuff. I just can't.
Everybody who says they know what's happening is a snake oil salesman.
Yes. What about poltergeists?
I think that's a psychic phenomenon.
I think those
We're
are
just
some-
getting real weird, folks. Come on, keep coming.
I think those are teenagers who are not able to control powers they do not understand. And maybe don't even consciously know they have.
I think it's an extinction burst for those capabilities that as we pass through puberty, they kind of switch off.
Because I started to say this as everybody knows, but
Everybody knows, Michael.
But in my head, everybody knows that like kids are more psychic than grown-ups. Kids say weird stuff all the time. I know probably half a dozen people whose children at age like 3 would just recount their past lives as though it were nothing. And then by the time they were 5, have no idea what anybody was talking about if they're asked. I think the kids are just, less trained out of seeing stuff and more malleable, more neuroplasticity going on in there.
A little more dialed in.
Yeah, and I think that something happens with the structures of the brain at the onset of puberty. But also, I don't know. My teenage years would have been a lot more interesting if that had happened to me.
It just stinks, man, because it's like the opposite of X-Men. Like, we're supposed to be getting powers, not losing powers. This is crap. But we're going to keep hanging out. So, if you have a question that's something you didn't want to ask in front of the group, we're happy to hang out and talk. Please grab some stickers.
Yes.
Books are for sale.
Make a little charm bag with cool stuff. Books are for sale, but everything else is free. Have a ball. Thanks for coming, y'all.
You've been listening to Arcane Carolinas. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. For more episodes, behind the scenes information, and links to our social media, check out www.arcanecarolinas.com, where you can also buy the Arcane Carolinas book.
And if you like award-winning horror and science fiction, check out my books at michaelgwilliamsbooks.com. And if you have story suggestions, comments, or questions, email us at arcanecarolinas@gmail.com. And thanks for listening. There we go. That's perfect. Good for them. That's awesome. Which good. The people, the online people will see it, and I'll show them. Oh. Do you like how I do audio really well?
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry.
I assume you have like an intro for the library you want to do? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
Hey, let me turn this on real quick.
Sure. We are eminently ready, but not quite. ready.
It's like when they play the really bad CG roller coaster at the movies, and you like go through like a giant soda cup, and then like come out the popcorn, and it's like the ad for the theater or whatever.
Oh,
Like right before the previews start, you're like it's starting. Like it's not starting. We have to sit through 2 minutes of concession ads.